There are rules governing how your life unfolds that are so fundamental, so deeply woven into the fabric of existence itself, that they do not require your belief in order to operate. They do not pause while you decide whether or not they are real. They do not soften their effects because you were never taught them. They simply run, the way gravity runs, the way electricity runs, the way the tide pulls regardless of whether anyone is standing on the shore watching it move. And right now, in this very moment, every single one of these rules is active in your life. They are shaping what shows up at your door and what never makes it past the front gate. They are deciding which opportunities you notice and which ones pass through your field of vision without registering. They are determining the quality of your relationships, the size of your income, the depth of your peace, and the texture of your daily experience with a precision that would stagger you if you could see the mechanics clearly. You have been living inside these rules your entire life. You have been subject to their consequences every single day. And the reason your life looks the way it does right now, the reason certain things keep appearing and certain things keep eluding you, is not because the universe has overlooked you or decided you are unworthy. It is because you have been unknowingly violating the very principles that would deliver everything you have been asking for. Not some of them, not one or two, most of them, simultaneously. And the results have been exactly what those violations would predict. What follows are 10 rules, not suggestions, not theories to consider over coffee. Rules. Learn them, apply them, and watch what happens when you stop working against the system that was designed to give you everything you want. Rule 1. The inner state always comes first. This is the rule that most people get precisely backwards, and it is the reason they spend years chasing results that keep receding like a horizon line. They believe that the external circumstance must change before they can feel different. They believe that the money must arrive before they can feel abundant, that the relationship must appear before they can feel loved, that the success must be visible before they can feel confident. They have placed the external world in the position of cause and their internal world in the position of effect, and they have the sequence exactly inverted. Your inner state is not the response to your reality. It is the blueprint for it. What you feel on the inside is not a reaction to what is happening around you. It is an instruction for what will happen next. The feeling comes first. The physical evidence comes second. Always, without exception. This is not a philosophy. This is the order of operations that governs how experience is constructed. When you wait for circumstances to change before you allow yourself to feel the way you want to feel, you are asking the mirror to smile before you do. And every morning you stand in front of that mirror with a stone face, waiting. And every morning the reflection stares back with exactly the expression you are wearing. Not because the mirror is broken, because the mirror is working perfectly. The practice of this rule is simple and uncomfortable. You begin to generate the feeling of the life you want before that life has arrived. Not as pretense, not as denial, as a deliberate act of creation. You feel the security before the savings account reflects it. You feel the love before the person shows up. You feel the confidence before the achievement validates it. And in doing so, you provide the blueprint that your reality requires in order to rearrange itself. Without the blueprint, there is nothing to build. And without the feeling, there is no blueprint. Rule 2. Vague requests produce vague results. The universe is not withholding from you. It is confused by you. Because you have been placing orders with the specificity of someone shouting into a restaurant kitchen, "Bring me something good," and then wondering why what arrives is not what you wanted. You said you wanted more money. How much more? $1 more satisfies that request. You said you wanted a better relationship. Better than what? Better by whose definition? You said you wanted to be happy. What does happiness feel like to you specifically in your body, in your daily routine, in the texture of an ordinary Wednesday afternoon? The universe does not interpret. It does not guess your intentions. It does not fill in the blanks with what you probably meant. It responds to the signal you actually send. And when that signal is vague, the response is scattered, unfocused, a jumble of loosely related results that never quite add up to the thing you were hoping for. Clarity is not a luxury. It is the first act of creation. And the clarity that matters most is not the clarity of the thing you want. It is the clarity of the feeling the thing represents. You do not actually want the house. You want the feeling of spaciousness, of permanence, of finally being home. You do not actually want the promotion. You want the feeling of being recognized, of being valued, of knowing that your contribution matters. When you identify the feeling with precision, you have given the universe a signal it can work with, and you have also freed it to deliver that feeling through channels you may never have anticipated, but that arrive with an accuracy that will leave you silent. Rule 3. Your assumptions are commands. There is a layer of thought operating beneath your conscious awareness that is far more powerful than any affirmation you will ever recite. It is the layer of assumption. The things you believe so completely, so automatically, that you do not experience them as beliefs at all. You experience them as the way things are, as facts, as the immovable conditions of your existence. People like me don't get those kinds of opportunities. Money always comes with strings attached. If something good happens, something bad is right behind it. These are not observations drawn from careful analysis. These are assumptions that have been running on autopilot for so long that they have become the lens through which you perceive everything. And here is what makes them so dangerous. The universe does not distinguish between an assumption and a command. Every assumption you hold is treated as an instruction, and the instruction is followed with flawless obedience. You do not experience what is true. You experience what you assume to be true, and your reality then arranges itself so elegantly around your assumptions that you mistake the arrangement for evidence. You say, "See, I knew that would happen." And you believe you are being perceptive, but you are not observing a pattern, you are creating one. And the pattern will continue for exactly as long as the assumption that generates it remains unquestioned. Begin to question everything you have accepted as simply the way things are, because almost none of it is the way things are. Almost all of it is the way you have assumed things to be. And assumptions, unlike facts, can be replaced. Rule 4. Your manifestation matches where you live, not where you visit. This is the rule that explains why the retreat didn't work, why the 3-day seminar produced a burst of hope that evaporated by Thursday, why you can meditate for 20 minutes in the morning and feel expansive and powerful, and then spend the remaining 15 hours and 40 minutes of your waking life in a state of quiet anxiety, low-grade frustration, and familiar limitation. Your reality does not conform to your peak state. It conforms to your home frequency, the emotional state you return to by default, the place where your attention lives when you are not actively managing it, when you are sitting in traffic, when you are scrolling without purpose, when you are lying awake at 2 a.m. with nothing between you and your most honest thoughts. That default state is your address. And the universe delivers to your address, not to the vacation home you visited for 20 minutes this morning during meditation. If your address is worry, the deliveries will match worry. If your address is quiet trust, the deliveries will match quiet trust. The morning meditation is not meaningless. It is valuable. But its purpose is not to create a temporary peak. Its purpose is to gradually, over time, change your address, to raise the floor of your default state so that even your worst days operate at a higher frequency than your best days used to. This is where real transformation happens, not in the peak moments, in the ordinary ones, in the unremarkable Tuesday afternoons where nothing dramatic is occurring, and the only thing that matters is the quality of the signal you are sending without trying. Rule 5. What you cling to, you repel. Every instinct you have will tell you that the way to ensure you get what you want is to hold on to it tightly, to focus on it relentlessly, to monitor its progress, to check for signs, to tighten your grip every time it seems like it might slip away. And every instinct you have in this case is wrong. There is a quality to desperate wanting that is unmistakable. You have felt it in other people. The friend who needs the relationship so badly that they suffocate every potential partner who comes near. The colleague who wants the promotion with such visible hunger that their energy repels the very decision-makers who could grant it. You can feel the grasping in them. It creates a contraction, a tightness, an energetic charge that communicates one thing with absolute clarity. I do not have this. I am incomplete without it. I need this to be okay. And that signal, that broadcast of desperate lack, is a repellent. Not because the universe is cruel, because the universe is a mirror. It reflects back what you are projecting. And when you project I do not have, the reflection can only show you more of not having. When you project I need this to be whole, the reflection shows you more evidence of your incompleteness. Releasing your grip does not mean releasing your desire. It means releasing the condition you have placed on your own well-being. You want it. You welcome it. But you are whole without it. And the paradox that will frustrate your rational mind until the day it finally surrenders is this: that state of wholeness, that calm sufficiency, that quiet inner completeness that does not need the thing in order to feel okay, is the precise vibration that draws the thing toward you faster than any amount of desperate effort ever could. Rule 6. You cannot outperform your identity. You can work 16 hours a day. You can learn every strategy. You can execute flawlessly. And if your internal identity says, I am someone who struggles, you will find a way to struggle. The money will come and then leave. The opportunity will arrive and then collapse. The relationship will begin beautifully and then erode, because your subconscious mind is not interested in your goals. It is interested in one thing: maintaining consistency with the image you hold of yourself. Your self-concept is a thermostat. It is set to a specific temperature, and no matter what happens externally, the system will always correct back to the setting. A lottery winner whose identity is I am poor will return to poverty. A person whose identity is I am always alone will sabotage every connection that threatens to prove them wrong, not consciously, not deliberately, but with the quiet mechanical efficiency of a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. This is why lasting change never begins with circumstances. It begins with the sentence that follows the words, I am. Because whatever follows those two words is the command your subconscious obeys. Not occasionally, constantly. If you want to know what your current self-concept is, do not look at your vision board. Look at your life. It is the most accurate mirror you will ever find. Changing the thermostat is not an intellectual exercise. You do not argue your way to a new identity. You rehearse your way there. You begin to imagine, with sensory detail and emotional engagement, what an ordinary day looks like for the person whose identity matches the life you want. Not a peak day, an ordinary one. And you practice inhabiting that ordinary day in your mind until it feels more familiar than the old one, until it feels less like a fantasy and more like a memory. And when your subconscious accepts it as memory, it becomes the new setting, and reality has no choice but to follow. Rule 7. Contradictory signals. Cancel each other out. You affirm abundance in the morning. You complain about prices at lunch. You visualize your ideal relationship before bed. You spend dinner telling your friend that all the good ones are taken. You declare that this is your year. You spend the drive home reviewing every reason it probably will not be. And then you wonder why nothing is manifesting. Nothing is manifesting because you are sending two opposite signals with roughly equal intensity, and they are canceling each other out. You are pressing the gas and the brake simultaneously, and then blaming the car for not moving. The car is not broken. The instructions are incoherent, and the universe cannot build from incoherence. It requires a clear signal, a sustained, consistent, dominant frequency that does not reverse itself every few hours. This does not mean you must be perfect. You do not need to eliminate every negative thought. That is neither possible nor necessary. What it means is that your dominant signal, the one that runs most of the time, the one that carries the most emotional weight, must be aligned with what you are creating. If your positive thoughts occupy 20% of your day and your contradictory thoughts occupy 80%, the 80% is your order. That is the signal being filled. Not because the universe is punishing you for your doubt, because it is responding to the louder broadcast. Coherence is power. A laser beam and a light bulb both produce light, but a laser can cut through steel, while a light bulb illuminates a room and nothing more. The difference is not the amount of energy, it is the coherence of the signal. Every photon in a laser is aligned. Every photon moves in the same direction, at the same frequency, in perfect unison. Your thoughts and emotions operate the same way. Scattered, they illuminate nothing. Aligned, they cut through anything. Rule 8. The delay is a test, not a punishment. There is a gap between the moment you change your inner state and the moment your outer world reflects that change. This gap can last days, weeks, sometimes longer. And it is in this gap that nearly everyone surrenders. They interpret the delay as evidence that the process is not working. They look around at the unchanged circumstances and conclude that their effort was wasted, that the principles are flawed, that they are somehow the exception to the rule. They are not the exception. They are being tested. And the test is elegantly simple. Can you maintain your new state in the absence of evidence? Can you continue to feel abundant when the bank account has not yet moved? Can you sustain the assumption of love when the relationship has not yet appeared? Can you hold your new identity steady while the old reality is still printing receipts from the previous order? Because the delay is not empty. The delay is construction. Beneath the surface of your unchanged circumstances, an enormous amount of rearrangement is taking place. Connections are being made. Events are being orchestrated. People are being moved into position. Timing is being calibrated. You cannot see any of it, the same way you cannot see a building being constructed behind a wall of scaffolding. But the work is happening. And the moment you abandon your state because you cannot see the progress is the moment the construction stops. Hold your state through the delay, not with gritted teeth. With quiet trust. The way you trust that a seed planted in good soil will eventually break through the surface, even though for weeks all you see is dirt. The dirt is not the absence of growth. It is the environment in which growth is happening invisibly. And your patience is not passive. It is the most active, most powerful, most creative thing you can do during the delay. Because patience in the absence of evidence is the strongest signal of faith the universe can receive. Rule 9. Your frequency is the average of what you tolerate. You are not a closed system. You are porous. You absorb the frequencies around you the way a sponge absorbs water. The people you spend your time with, the conversations you participate in, the media you consume, the environments you inhabit, every one of these is a frequency source, and every one of them is either raising your vibration or lowering it. There is no neutral input. Everything you allow into your field contributes to your broadcast. You would not eat food you knew was poisoned and then wonder why your body was sick. But you marinate in toxic conversations, in catastrophic news cycles, in relationships that drain you of every drop of vitality, and then wonder why your vibration will not rise, why your manifestations feel blocked, why you cannot sustain the state you cultivated in meditation once you step back into the rest of your life. Your environment is not a backdrop. It is an active ingredient. And curating it is not optional if you are serious about changing your frequency. This does not mean you isolate yourself from all difficulty or surround yourself only with people who agree with you. It means you become honest about what your inputs are costing you. It means you stop pretending that the nightly scroll through outrage and despair has no effect on the signal you broadcast the following morning. It means you begin to choose your energetic diet with the same deliberation you would choose what you put into your body, understanding that what you consume emotionally and mentally shapes your reality just as powerfully as what you consume physically. Some of these changes will be easy. Some will require conversations you have been avoiding. Some will require you to disappoint people who have grown comfortable with the version of you that tolerates what the new version of you cannot. But every frequency source you remove that does not serve you creates space for one that does. And that space is not empty. It is an invitation. Rule 10. The last assumption. Before you quit is the one that prints. This is the rule that separates the people whose lives transform from the people who spend years circling the same territory wondering why nothing ever changes. And it is brutally simple. Most people do the work. They shift their state. They hold the vision. They maintain their assumption for days, sometimes weeks. And then the delay stretches on, or a setback arrives, or the old reality reasserts itself with particular force. And in that moment of pressure, in that moment of exhaustion and doubt, they let go. They say, either silently or aloud, I knew it wouldn't work. This isn't real. Who was I kidding? And that assumption, the one they snap back to in the moment of surrender, is the one the universe receives as the final instruction, not the weeks of careful work that preceded it, the final dominant signal. Because the universe is always listening to the present broadcast, and the assumption you hold in the moment of pressure, the one that survives when everything else is stripped away, that is your true assumption. That is the one that prints. This is why the work is not about perfection. It is about persistence, not the grinding, exhausting persistence of forcing yourself through a wall. The quiet, steady persistence of returning to your chosen state one more time than you fall out of it. The willingness to feel the doubt, to acknowledge the fear, and then to gently, without drama, without self-condemnation, place your attention back on the assumption you are choosing to hold, not because you have proof it is working, but because you understand that the proof comes after the assumption is held, not before. The person who holds their new assumption through one moment of genuine doubt has done more for their manifestation than the person who holds it for a month without ever being tested. Because the untested assumption is theoretical. The assumption that survives a test is operational. And operational assumptions are the only ones that build realities. These 10 rules have been operating in your life since the day you were born. They did not begin when you learned about them. They do not require your understanding in order to function. They have been shaping every experience, every outcome, every relationship, every dollar, every disappointment, and every unexpected blessing with a precision that leaves no room for accident or coincidence. Nothing in your life has been random. Everything has been a perfect reflection of how you have been relating to these 10 principles, whether you knew they existed or not. And that is the most liberating realization you will ever have. Because if your life has been perfectly reflecting your misalignment with these rules, then it will just as perfectly reflect your alignment with them. The system does not play favorites. It does not decide that some people deserve to manifest and others do not. It responds to the signal. Change the signal, and the response changes. Not because you have been rewarded, because you have been heard. You were always being heard. Every thought, every assumption, every emotional state, every moment of desperate grasping, and every moment of quiet trust was received and answered with absolute fidelity. The universe was never the problem. The signal was the problem. And now you know what the signal needs to be. You do not need to master all 10 rules tomorrow. You do not need to overhaul your entire inner world in a single week. Begin with the one that landed deepest, the one that made you pause, the one that felt less like new information and more like something you always knew but had never heard spoken plainly. Start there. Work with it. Let it restructure how you move through a single ordinary day. And then notice what shifts, not in the dramatic, fireworks in the sky way you might expect, in the quiet, almost imperceptible way that real change always begins, a conversation that goes differently, a tension that dissolves without effort, an opportunity that appears from a direction you were not looking in. These small shifts are not small. They are the first visible evidence that the scaffolding is coming down and the new structure is being revealed. They are proof that the rules are responding to your new signal the same way they always responded to the old one, with perfect, impersonal, breathtaking precision. The architecture of your reality was never hidden from you. It was operating in plain sight, producing results so consistent that you mistook them for fate. They were never fate. They were physics. And now that you understand the physics, you are no longer subject to a life you did not choose. You are the author of one you did.